Welcome back. Over the last couple of weeks we've looked at the restoration of my old 28 model Chev and the sort of equipment that you can buy or hire to use in your workshop to carry out some quite extensive jobs. Now, we've blasted the old paint and built up grease off all of these parts. In fact, all of these parts actually, that's a steering linkage, and these other ones are the brake rods for the mechanical brakes on the 28 Chev. But they're typical of small parts of any kind that you would be likely to need to paint in your workshop, regardless of what the job was going to be. Now, the first thing to do is to prepare this surface to accept the paint. Now, that's a relatively complex job which requires several steps. Now, I use the products supplied by Hart's Automotive Paint Supplies at Southport and in Brisbane. They're fairly typical of automotive paint suppliers right around the country, and the sort of products that we're looking at here are available just about anywhere. I've found Hart's to be excellent. Their products are reasonably priced, which is important, but more importantly, they not only perform their jobs extremely well, but they're also quite easy to use. And if you don't have the skill levels of a professional, it's most important that these materials be easy for you to use. First of all, we have to remove any remaining surface contaminants on those metal parts. Now, we do that by using a solvent which is called wax and grease remover. We wipe it onto the surface with a clean rag, and it should be a clean rag even though this one looks a bit grimy. That's mainly because it's wet. We wipe it onto the surface thoroughly, and then we wipe it back off again with a clean dry rag. Now, that will remove all remaining surface contaminants from all of those parts. Now, I'll do a small one and a large one here so that you get an idea of how it all goes. This is actually the steering drag link off the old Chev. Interesting to note that this is 63 years old and virtually all of the wear surfaces are still in quite usable condition. I mean, she's showing signs of wear here and there, but for a car that's that old and has done as many miles as we expect she has, they're in remarkably good condition. So there's the steering drag link there, and there is one of the brake rods. Now, I'll just move these other ones out of the way, and we'll concentrate on those two. Now, the first thing to do is to give the surface a light sanding. I'm using what's called free cut paper, which has a white surface there, and you'll find that even though the sandblaster did a superb job, that there is some rust residue coming off the surface as I sand it. Now, that has a dual purpose. Firstly, it removes that rust residue, and secondly, it actually abrades the surface and leaves it slightly scratched. Now, that certainly enhances the ability of the paint to stick to the surface, to adhere to the surface, by giving it a mechanical key. Now, you don't have to be too thorough with that because we're using some surface coatings which can tend to overcome some of the problems of bad adhesion. But we'll just give that a very quick rub off. It's coming up nice and bright. We're removing some residual rust on the surface. We give it another quick wipe over with wax and grease remover mainly to get the dust off, because we know we've already got the residual surface contaminants off. And the first step is to use a surface etch primer. Now, I've already got it loaded in the gun. It's called Ultra Acryl, again sold by Hart's and with counterparts from virtually all other manufacturers. Clip the gun on there. Now, I've adjusted this gun so that it has quite a narrow fan. You'll find that there are adjustments on various spray guns to control the amount of material that comes out the nozzle and the width of the spray feather that comes off the gun. So I've adjusted this down because obviously those parts are quite narrow. Now, I'm spraying here now, by magic of television, a respirator has miraculously appeared on my face. Under no circumstances should you spray anything unless you're wearing quite an efficient respirator, similar to the one that you see there. But unfortunately, whilst it's on the face, I can't talk to you on camera. So you're seeing the paint going onto those surfaces now. This etch primer, as I said, is 2-pack, and it actually etches into the surface of the metal, dries extremely quickly, and forms a foundation for all of the other paint coatings. As I said, it dries quickly and it etches into the surface and holds the paint on. Now, once the etch primer is dry, which is around about 10 minutes, you can then put the undercoat on. Now, we're out of time again, so we'll cover undercoating and colour coding next week. We'll be back right after this break.